Okay, so you guys have really outdone yourselves this time. All the stuff you sent in, it's all about like, you know how our brains can actually change and grow, this
Yeah.
concept of neuroplasticity.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it's really quite remarkable when you think about it, because for the longest time, the thinking was, our brain functions are pretty much set.
Right.
But as the material that you shared with us makes clear,
Mm-hmm.
that's just simply not the case. Our brains are constantly rewiring themselves, forming all these new connections throughout, well, our entire lives, really.
Yeah. It's really incredible because it's not like there's kind of this old saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Mm-hmm.
And that just doesn't hold up.
Right.
Especially when you consider this concept of neuroplasticity.
Right.
Because every new thought that we have, every action that we take, every experience that we encounter, it's really physically shaping the structure of our brain.
Right.
Yeah. And the more that we repeat something, the stronger those neural pathways become.
Yeah.
And, just to think about it for a second. So your brain has billions of neurons.
Right.
And when you learn something new or practice a new skill, these neurons fire together.
Okay.
And over time, they become more and more efficiently connected. It's almost like if you were to forge a new trail through a wilderness.
Okay.
The more you walk down that path, the easier it becomes to navigate it.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah. And that's a great analogy too, because it really does sort of highlight the very core of this deep dive as I see it.
Yeah.
You've provided us with this absolutely fantastic resource, Rewire Your Brain, a guide to self-improvement and growth. And our mission, if you will, is to really extract the real practical gold from this. So how can you listening right now actually harness this power of neuroplasticity to make real, tangible, concrete improvements in your life? And the material hints at some incredibly exciting possibilities, from overcoming those negative thought patterns to, well, really supercharging your focus and your memory, building those rock solid habits,
Right.
boosting that emotional resilience, and even unlocking more of your creative potential. So with all of that sort of laid out on the table, where do we even begin to unpack it?
I think a really fundamental aspect, and one that the source material rightly emphasizes early on, is the concept of a growth mindset.
Okay.
So understanding this concept of a growth mindset, it's really key to unlocking the potential for change in your brain.
Okay, so let's dig into this growth mindset idea a little bit.
Yeah.
So the material that you sent over really contrasts it with what they call a fixed mindset.
Right.
What's really the core distinction there, and why is it so important for us to grasp?
Well, at its core, someone with a fixed mindset really believes that their abilities, their intelligence, it's largely static.
Right.
You're kind of born with a certain amount and that's it. That's pretty much it.
Right.
And this can create, a real fear of failure, because a failure then becomes a direct reflection of their inherent limitations.
Right.
And they might avoid challenges or take criticism very personally, or even feel threatened by the success of others.
Right.
As the source points out, this kind of mindset, this fixed mindset, can really be a significant barrier to personal growth, and it can lead to self-doubt and stagnation.
Totally. It's almost like thinking, well, I'm just not good at public speaking.
Right.
I'm just not a natural.
Right.
And then just avoiding any situation that would put you in in front of people.
Right. Exactly.
So what's the other side of that coin? What does a growth mindset actually look like in action?
Well, a growth mindset, conversely, is this strong belief that your abilities and your intelligence can actually be developed.
Okay.
And improved through dedication, effort, and continuous learning.
Got it.
So people who embrace this mindset, they see challenges as exciting opportunities to stretch their capabilities.
Right.
They view criticism as valuable feedback, something that can help them get better.
Mm-hmm.
And they understand that failures are simply learning opportunities.
Right.
Necessary steps on the path to mastery.
Yeah.
It's really about fundamentally believing in your capacity to evolve.
Right.
And, what's truly fascinating when we connect this back to the idea of neuroplasticity is that this belief in itself, this growth mindset, it actually fuels the very actions.
Mm-hmm.
Seeking new experiences, putting in the effort, that really drives the rewiring of your brain.
It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So how can our listener actually start to cultivate this growth mindset? I know the source gives us some really concrete steps, which is great.
Yeah, it does. The material really provides some very actionable strategies.
Mm-hmm.
First, it really highlights the importance of embracing challenges.
Okay.
So instead of shying away from things that seem difficult, really trying to reframe them in your mind as opportunities.
Right.
As opportunities to expand your skill set. Second, actively seek out and learn from criticism.
Okay.
Try to see this as constructive feedback designed to help you improve rather than some sort of personal judgment.
Right.
Third, and this is really important, when you inevitably encounter setbacks, reframe those failures as learning experiences.
Right.
What can I take away from this? What can I do differently next time? Ask yourself these questions. Fourth, really pay attention to your self-talk.
Oh, yeah.
Consciously change the language that you use. Replace those limiting phrases like, I can't do this, with the much more empowering, I can't do this yet.
Right. Right.
That small word yet really signals a belief
Yeah.
in future potential.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And finally, surround yourself with individuals who have a growth mindset.
Right.
Their belief in growth and their positive approach
Yeah.
can be incredibly contagious and motivating.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Those are all incredibly practical takeaways. It's almost like you're intentionally training your brain to have a different kind of reaction
Yeah.
to, to those kinds of things, obstacles and setbacks, and reframing it in terms of learning and progress.
Right.
Okay. So we've kind of established this foundational growth mindset.
Mm-hmm.
What's the next key area we should explore in terms of, leveraging neuroplasticity for self-improvement?
Well, the source then delves into this really crucial topic of breaking negative thought patterns.
Right.
And I think this is something that resonates with almost everyone.
For sure. Yeah.
As we touched on earlier, our brains are so incredibly efficient at reinforcing what we do repeatedly. And that includes our thoughts.
Yep.
So if we consistently engage in negative self-talk, or if we're constantly replaying, negative experiences in our minds, those neural pathways that are associated with negativity become stronger and stronger.
Right.
Making it almost like a default way of thinking. It's like you're creating a groove in your mind.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a rut, a mental rut. The more you travel down that path of negative thinking, the easier it becomes. It becomes more automatic. So how do we start to create some new pathways, to really dig ourselves out of those ruts? I know the source material outlines a few really specific techniques, which is helpful.
It does.
Yeah.
And the source really emphasizes a few techniques that are very effective. One of them is what they call cognitive reframing.
Okay.
So when a negative thought surfaces,
Yeah.
the first step is to really become aware of it.
Okay.
To notice it.
Right.
Without immediately getting, swept away in it.
Right.
And then challenge that thought. Ask yourself really honestly, is this thought objectively true?
Right.
What evidence do I actually have to support this thought?
Right.
Are there alternative, maybe more balanced ways of looking at this situation? And then, this is really the crucial step, is to consciously replace that negative thought
Right.
with a more positive or more realistic or at least more neutral alternative.
Right.
And this takes consistent practice. But over time, you literally begin to rewire your brain.
Yeah.
To adopt a more balanced and optimistic perspective.
That makes a lot of sense. It really does. It's like actively choosing to take a different route. You're choosing a different pathway in that forest.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
What are some of the other techniques that the source recommends for really tackling these negative thought patterns?
Well, another really powerful tool that it highlights is gratitude journaling.
So by making a regular habit of writing down, the things that you're genuinely grateful for each day, you're really actively training your brain to focus on the positive aspects of your life.
Right.
And it consciously shifts your attention away from what you may feel like you're lacking and towards, what you do appreciate and have in your life.
Yeah.
And even seemingly small things can have a significant impact over time.
Right.
And finally, the source also discusses the benefits of things like mindfulness.
Okay.
And meditation practices.
Right.
These techniques can really help you cultivate a greater awareness of your thoughts.
Right.
Including those negative ones.
Yeah.
Without getting so entangled in them.
Right.
You learn to observe them with a sense of detachment.
Yeah.
Which creates a space for you to consciously choose where you direct your focus.
So it's almost like a multi-pronged approach.
Voilà.
It's becoming more aware of those negative thoughts, really questioning their validity,
Right.
actively choosing to replace them with more positive ones,
Exactly.
and training our brains to really focus on the good stuff through gratitude
Yeah.
and through mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like, it takes a lot of conscious effort, but the payoff could be really huge in terms of rewiring our brains for greater optimism.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about building positive habits.
Okay.
That's another, cornerstone of this whole self-improvement thing. And I imagine neuroplasticity plays a big role there too.
Absolutely. Habits, as the source material correctly points out, are incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
Because over time, they become almost automatic.
Right.
And our brains actually build very strong neural connections around the behaviors that we repeat consistently.
Okay.
And this automaticity frees up valuable mental energy for other tasks.
Right.
So consciously cultivating good habits is a really effective way to really steer that rewiring process
Okay.
in a positive direction.
Right.
To create lasting change.
So how do we go about building these, what the source calls powerful habits that reinforce growth? What are some of the key strategies there?
Well, the source offers several key steps.
Okay.
The first is this principle of starting small.
Okay.
So instead of trying to overhaul your entire routine overnight,
Right.
focus on making tiny manageable changes.
Right.
For example, if you want to incorporate daily exercise, just start with 5 minutes of activity.
Okay.
This makes it much easier to get started, build momentum without feeling overwhelmed.
Right. Right.
The second strategy that it talks about is what they call habit stacking.
Okay.
This involves consciously linking a new habit to an existing one
Got it.
that you already perform regularly.
Yeah.
And the source gives a great example of this. They say, after I brush my teeth in the morning, I will immediately do 1 minute of stretching. So by attaching the new habit to that well-established routine, you're really leveraging those existing neural pathways to help solidify that new one.
Right.
And the third is, the importance of rewarding yourself. Celebrate those small wins.
Right.
When you stick to your new habit,
Right.
this positive reinforcement helps to strengthen that association between that behavior
Right.
and a good feeling,
Yeah.
making it more likely to stick. And finally, consistency is really key.
Right.
The more frequently you repeat a habit, the stronger those corresponding neural pathways become.
Got it.
And even if you miss a day, don't get discouraged.
Yeah.
Just get right back on track the very next day.
That's a really good point. I really like that idea of habit stacking. I think it's really smart. It's a really good way to, it makes introducing new habits much less daunting. Because you're just adding a small step onto something you already do without even thinking about it. And the emphasis on starting small, is huge because it lowers that initial barrier to entry.
Yeah.
It makes it much easier to just get started in the first place.
Right.
Now the source material also delves into training our brain for better focus and productivity, which in today's world of, just constant notifications and distractions sounds like a superpower.
It is, truly. And, the source really accurately identifies distractions as a major obstacle to both focus and productivity.
Right.
They essentially fragment our mental energy.
Yeah.
And they prevent us from engaging, really deeply and effectively with the tasks at hand.
Right.
But the good news, as the material emphasizes, is that just like any other cognitive skill,
Yeah.
our ability to focus can be significantly improved through targeted training.
So what are some of those specific training techniques that the source recommends for really sharpening our focus?
Well, one popular and effective technique is this thing called the Pomodoro technique. And this involves working in these really focused 25-minute intervals,
Got it.
followed by a very short 5-minute break to really rest your mind.
Okay.
And this structured approach can help you maintain that concentration during those work periods.
Right.
And it helps to prevent mental fatigue.
Right. Okay.
Another really critical point is this conscious effort to eliminate multitasking.
Okay.
And it might feel like you're accomplishing more by juggling all those different tasks at once.
Sure. Yeah.
But research actually consistently shows that multitasking significantly reduces cognitive efficiency and the quality of your work.
Right. Right.
So focusing on one task at a time actually allows for deeper cognitive processing.
Right.
And it ultimately leads to, faster and better results.
Yeah.
Now, optimizing your physical environment is also really key.
Right.
Reducing those distractions like unnecessary notifications.
Yeah.
On your phone, your computer, as well as minimizing background noise, can dramatically improve your ability to concentrate.
Right, right.
And finally, the source highlights the importance of what they call deep work.
Okay.
So intentionally setting aside these dedicated blocks of uninterrupted time.
Right.
Specifically for those, very important tasks that really demand a lot of cognitive energy.
Right.
And this allows you to truly immerse yourself in the work and make significant progress.
It's like carving out that space and that time to really focus in on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
These all sound like incredibly practical and actionable strategies for really reclaiming our attention.
Right.
In a world that's just trying to constantly pull us in a million directions.
Yeah.
And as the source correctly points out, improving our focus directly translates into achieving our goals more efficiently and effectively.
Absolutely.
Now let's move on to another area that I think is increasingly being recognized as just absolutely vital for overall well-being and success. Emotional intelligence, often referred to as EQ. What is that really all about?
Well, emotional intelligence, or EQ, is really the capacity to understand and manage and express your own emotions effectively.
Okay.
But then also to understand and empathize with the emotions of others.
Right.
And the source rightly emphasizes that individuals with higher EQ, they tend to experience more successful and fulfilling relationships.
Okay.
They achieve greater career success, and they enjoy, just overall enhanced personal growth.
Got it.
And fortunately, emotional intelligence isn't a fixed trait.
Right. You're not just born with it.
It's not something you're born with.
Yeah.
It's a set of skills that can be actively developed.
Okay.
And strengthened throughout your life.
So according to the material, what are some key ways that we can really enhance our emotional intelligence?
Well, the source outlines several key areas to focus on.
Okay.
The first is actively practicing self-awareness. Really taking time to recognize your own emotions as they arise and understand how those emotions influence your thoughts and your subsequent actions.
Right.
So, this might involve activities like journaling or, regularly reflecting on your reactions to different situations, or even seeking, honest feedback from trusted friends or colleagues.
Right.
The second is really consciously developing empathy.
Okay.
Making an effort to see situations from other people's perspectives, to understand their feelings and motivations, their needs.
Right.
Cultivating empathy is so fundamental for building stronger connections and for improving your interpersonal communication.
Right, right.
Speaking of communication, that's another critical aspect of EQ.
Okay.
Learning to express yourself clearly, respectfully, assertively, but also actively and attentively listening to others.
Right.
This is essential for healthy and productive relationships. And finally, the source emphasizes the importance of learning to manage your stress effectively.
Okay.
So, when we are under significant stress, our emotions can easily become overwhelming and lead to, unproductive behaviors.
Right, right.
So developing healthy coping mechanisms
Right.
and practicing relaxation techniques allows us to, really handle our emotions in a more constructive and balanced way.
Right. So it sounds like strengthening our emotional intelligence is really about, developing a deeper understanding of ourselves.
Yeah.
But also improving how we interact with the world around us.
Exactly. Yeah.
And as the source suggests, a higher EQ can really lead to more fulfilling relationships.
Right.
Which I think is something most of us really, really value.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, the journey of self-improvement is often described as a continuous process, a lifelong endeavor. And that really ties in perfectly with the next point highlighted in the material, which is continuous learning.
Exactly.
Talk about that.
So the source emphasizes that the more we actively challenge our brains with new learning experiences, the more neural connections we build and strengthen.
Okay.
And this not only keeps our minds sharp and agile, but it also makes them more adaptable to new situations.
Right.
Which is so crucial in this really rapidly evolving world that we live in.
For sure, yeah.
Embracing lifelong learning is, in essence, a very powerful way to continue actively rewiring your brain throughout your whole lifespan.
Okay, so what are some concrete and accessible ways that we can all engage in continuous learning, even with our busy lives?
Well, the source offers several excellent and really practical suggestions.
Okay.
Making a habit of reading daily is a fantastic way
Right.
to expose your brain to new ideas
Yes.
and perspectives
Right.
and a wealth of information.
Right.
Taking advantage of, the vast array of online courses that are available now.
Yeah.
Through platforms like Coursera or Udemy or Masterclass. These provide very structured learning opportunities.
Right.
In virtually any subject that sparks your interest.
Right.
Actively engaging in those really brain-boosting activities like solving puzzles.
Yeah.
Or learning a new language, or pursuing creative hobbies.
Yeah.
All of these can also keep your brain very active, constantly challenged, and forming those new connections.
Right. Right.
And perhaps most importantly,
Yeah.
cultivating a genuine sense of curiosity is really key.
Okay.
Ask questions about the world around you.
Right.
Explore those topics that pique your interest, even if they, fall outside your usual comfort zone or area of expertise.
It's like giving yourself permission to be curious about things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and never lose that childlike wonder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it seems like continuous learning isn't just about passively acquiring new skills for a resume or something like that.
Yeah.
It's about actively engaging with the world around us
Yeah.
and intentionally keeping our minds flexible and adaptable.
Yeah.
And open to new possibilities. And as the source points out, this ongoing engagement really enhances our natural curiosity. It strengthens those problem-solving abilities. And I love this. It really does improve our overall adaptability to life's inevitable changes, which is really the only constant, is that things are always changing. Finally, no comprehensive discussion about maximizing our brain power would be complete without addressing the fundamental importance of actually taking care of our physical brains.
Right, yeah. Our brains, while incredibly complex and adaptable, are also biological organs.
Right.
They require proper care and nourishment to function at their optimal level.
Right.
And the source really emphasizes that making these simple lifestyle changes can have a profound and lasting impact on our brain health and cognitive function.
So what are some of those really essential brain-boosting habits that we should all be prioritizing?
Well, first and foremost, prioritize regular exercise. Engaging in physical activity increases blood flow to the brain.
Right.
Which is absolutely essential for delivering oxygen and nutrients that it needs to function properly.
Right.
Exercise has also been shown to actually enhance your cognitive function,
Okay.
including memory and attention.
Got it.
Eating a brain-healthy diet is equally crucial.
Okay.
The source highlights the benefits of incorporating omega-3 rich foods like salmon,
Right.
walnuts, which are really vital for brain cell structure and function.
Okay.
Antioxidants found in things like berries or dark chocolate,
Yeah.
which help to protect those brain cells from damage.
Okay.
And then whole grains,
Right.
which provide a steady source of energy for the brain.
Yeah.
Getting enough sleep, high quality sleep,
Right.
is also really non-negotiable
Yeah.
for optimal brain health.
Right.
Sleep is a critical time when our brains consolidate memories, they clear out those metabolic waste products, and perform those essential repairs.
Yeah.
And maintenance.
Yeah.
And finally, effectively managing stress is so critical.
Okay.
Because that chronic unmanaged stress can really have these detrimental effects on brain structure and function.
Right.
So incorporating things like relaxation techniques
Right.
into your routine,
Yeah.
whether it's meditation or deep breathing exercises or spending time in nature,
Right.
can really help to mitigate those negative impacts of stress.
It's such an important reminder, that our mental and physical well-being are so deeply interconnected.
Yeah, absolutely.
And taking care of our bodies really does directly support the health and function of our brains, which impacts our ability to learn, to focus, to grow, and to really thrive.
Exactly.
So as we bring this deep dive, into this amazing world of neuroplasticity and self-improvement to a close, what would you say is the single most important takeaway for our listeners?
I think the single most significant takeaway, as the source so clearly and powerfully articulates, is that your brain is not a fixed entity.
Right.
It's not a static piece of hardware that you're stuck with.
Yeah. Right.
Instead, it's capable of ongoing rewiring, continuous adaptation,
Right.
and really profound growth
Yeah.
throughout the entirety of your life. And this fundamental understanding really transforms the landscape of self-improvement.
Right.
It means that meaningful and lasting personal growth isn't just wishful thinking. It's a real scientifically supported possibility.
Absolutely. And it's within our reach, it's within our grasp. And the source material really does provide such a clear roadmap for us, encouraging us to start implementing even small incremental changes based on everything that we've discussed here today. So cultivating that growth mindset,
Right.
really consciously working to break free of those negative thought patterns,
Yeah.
diligently building those positive habits that support us, intentionally training our ability to focus,
Right.
continuously working on our emotional intelligence, which is so key.
Absolutely.
Wholeheartedly embracing this idea of lifelong learning and really, really prioritizing the care and the nourishment of our amazing brains.
Wow.
Every small, deliberate step you take is you're rewiring your brain for a more positive, productive, and fulfilling future.
Absolutely. And this brings us to a really important and personal question.
Okay.
For you to consider. Drawing upon the, really valuable insights that we've uncovered in this deep dive,